I really enjoyed our conversation the last time we talked, and I wanted to expand on some of the things that we had discussed. But let's start talking, just as people in the community, talk to me about the perceptions that you had of mental health when you were younger.
When I was younger, mental health wasn't talked about a whole lot. It was one of those things that you could say was sort of like swept under the rug. Um, if it was talked about, it was among the adults. Those things didn't reach down to, to the younger youth, the younger the kids to um, be informed of what was going on. So it was kind of hushed. If it did reach the surface, it was looked at as though it was something like sort of tabooish.
Right.
Something was wrong with you, a different kind of wrong, not just someone that has, let's say, cancer,
Right.
but somebody who has something that's really bad, and you need to keep that, hushed. It wasn't talked about a lot.
Right. And I think that that's still, that's a perception that's kind of grown to be a little bit more open with, the community over the past 10 years. But certainly before the past 10 years, I think certainly before that, it was very taboo in a lot of communities. So when we're talking about the stigma of mental health and about the things that stop us from talking about mental health, and you were saying the adults would talk about it, what would happen with the kids? How would the conversations with the kids go?
Well, I can't even say they were really conversations with the kids. It would maybe more so of a thing where you overheard somebody. You may have heard adults talking, and you heard and you picked up on it. And then if someone did go that far to make a statement around you on a different level, it was everybody knew it was okay. That person, something wrong with them. They mental. They crazy.
Right.
Then you hear the kids go, they cuckoo.
Right.
So just all these different words that people would use to describe them, that because you knew that there was some type of issue going on, but then yet you have people using these different words,
right.
Tying it with these different words, made you believe that must be really something bad. If I get that, I don't ever want to know I have
right,
it.
Right.
So if you did have it, you had to ball it up because you didn't know where to go, because you didn't trust anyone without putting all your business in the street and making a mockery of you, just though they were doing to other people that you saw it being done to.
Right. And I think that is a perception that still prevails today. It's like, don't air your dirty laundry in public. Don't let people in. Don't let people know. When we're talking about those stigmatizing things that people do to each other to stop people getting to the help that they need, when we look at the school kids, we talk a lot to school kids, and they're talking about psycho and being crazy and all the other things that they say to each other in school. And so when we go and talk to them, we'll say to them, these are the warning signs. It's like if you're behaving irrationally, or if you're sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, or, you're acting out, or you can't control your anger, you can't control your temper, maybe it's time to start talking to somebody. And we will say to them, who do you talk to? And a lot of people will say, I'll talk to my mom or my dad. I'll talk to my aunt. And other people don't have anybody to talk to. There isn't anybody that they feel they can talk to. They will talk to their friends, who often don't have the solutions either. And so I know that the church is very important in the African American community. And so what do we know about the church and mental health counseling in the church?
Well, as far as what I know, going to the church is pretty much like their first stop.
Okay.
And oftentimes the only stop, but it's their first stop because it's somebody that they're familiar with, someone that they know. It's a place that they are connected to, versus going to a counselor, someone that they've never seen before, know nothing about. It just, and you hear, oh, you're gonna go to the shrink, or you're gonna go lay on the shrink's chair.
Right.
They're gonna dim the lights. I mean, well, if you're having an issue and somebody's describing these different things in a negative connotation, why would you be enthused to go there to seek that help?
Right.
So you go to that church where there's somebody who you hear and you see multiple times during the week. You know this person knows you. This person knows your family. This person knows the people you sing on the choir with. The person that you go to Bible study with. So you feel a bigger connection with your pastor or someone in the church than you do someone in the profession.
That makes a lot of sense. So
I feel personally that I have a special relationship with a spiritual leader, I would go to that spiritual leader before I go to seek. One would probably go seek out professional licensed counselor, if you want to put it
Right,
that way.
right.
Simply because there's a greater bond.
And so we know statistically that African American males have higher rates of suicide attempts, and we also know that they exhibit some medical conditions that we know are tied to some mental health conditions. And so if they're seeing their pastor, we also know that the pastors are trying very hard to help people open up their environment and go ahead and seek help from professional counselors. And so I'm not sure how that conversation would go, but is there something that the pastor could introduce in the church to support people? I mean, do they have groups or?
I know that the church that I attend now,
Mm-hmm.
they do. They have on different subjects. They'll have
Okay.
guest speakers come in and they'll speak on different topics. And mental health, mental wellness is one of them.
Okay.
So there is that push now. I would say now in my adulthood versus my youth.
Great. So we partner with a couple of different organizations here in Fort Mill. We churches, and that's going really well. So I think that there are things starting to expand, and people are getting more comfortable with having these conversations. But we were talking before about school and about the perception when we were kids. And I know when I was a kid, the perception was we laid on a couch and somebody wrote notes and kind of did this with us. And we know that that's not true. But still, with the kids at school, our big push is to get the kids at school involved in positive mental health, because if we can catch them younger, they have a better chance of recovery and having that fulfilling life that we want them to have. And so I'm wondering if, I have a teenage boy, a 16-year-old boy, and I know that, perception is everything. You gotta have the right shoes. So I wonder how that affects kids if they're, a sports star or an academic star, or, they have something that they're revered for. How does it affect them, do you think, if the negative stereotype is you seek mental health counseling, you must be crazy? I mean, I know from my perspective, I think it's probably not something they're going to talk about because they're going to be embarrassed. So.
I agree. I feel that it would be something, because who would want something of that magnitude, especially a youth, cast upon them? They don't want that title, especially if everyone sees and recognizes you as being this quote unquote star. You're
Yes.
a superstar. You're the super athlete. Well, you're gonna want to ride that out until you're done forever.
Right.
But would you want somebody to cast you having mental illness on top of that? It's going to take a strong youth to allow that to happen and still feel strong and positive about themselves in public.
Yeah, that's kind of I kind of have that perception too. I mean, me personally, it would probably be a contradiction of maintaining social status, but also reaching out and getting help. So we know that that's a big barrier, and so maybe some of the things that we can do for our youth is get them involved in these group programs, get them involved in more support community programs.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would take more activities,
Mm-hmm.
and with more activities will bring about more awareness. And with the more awareness, you have more people involved, and more people involved, more people feel comfortable and more relaxed to come and express some issues they may have. Prior to this, you said that kids the oversleeping and they're doing things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. Sometimes, like we stated earlier, we may misdiagnose it or overlook it, and though that's just a typical teen.
Right.
Yes, those activities may be of a typical teen, but in this particular teen, it may be something different. They
Right.
may be struggling with something, but yet don't know how to come forth to ask for help.
Right.
Maybe they don't even know they need the help.
Right. We see that a lot.
Because they know their best friend and their first cousin does the same thing.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, right? It's like reaching out for help. You have to actually understand, first of all, that you need the help, and you need to know that you need the help. I do think that if we have somebody who is very engaged in sports or very engaged in debate club or band or something like that, that they have a lot of time to focus energy on, we do tend to kind of brush things aside as, oh, they're tired, or oh, they've got a lot going on, or oh, you know, it's a rigorous schedule for them keeping up their grades and keeping up their sports stuff. And I think it's really easy for parents to not want to go down that path as well with their kid. I don't want to say my kid has a mental illness because, and then it goes back to that stigma again.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm. And sometimes the parents themselves don't recognize it,
right,
you know. But when they do, it's two things they have to ask themselves: do I just see if they outgrow it? See if it's just a
right,
phase?
right,
You know, who do I go talk to? Will I be embarrassed? If I'm comfortable with it, will my child be embarrassed? So it's the parent themselves will have to step up and figure out how they're going to move forward and seeing whether or not that child really does need help.
right. And so if we can start projecting the message of, you can be successful. Nobody's saying that if you have a mental illness, you're not going to be successful in life. You can be the sports star and you can still get mental health awareness or mental health help. You can be an academic star and still get mental health help. So we know that those things are true, but we know that we have to start getting to them sooner. So if we promote those programs in the community, if we can do community-based programming and those kind of groups that we can get people working on positive things for, if we can involve the church, if we can involve schools, then we
win.
We're framing ourselves up for a better.
Right. You have to first recognize, and once you recognize, overcoming the stigma. Don't look at it as a stigma.
Right.
Look at it as getting help for it, just like you would do with anything else. That star might break their leg. No one laughs about them going to the hospital to get a cast.
Exactly.
So
right.
if someone, for some reason, is dealing with an issue and it's put them in a state of depression and they need help, it's the same thing.
Yeah, why wouldn't they
go get help?
Go get help.
You know? So it's breaking down and doing away with the stigma. Once you have to dissolve the stigma, once the stigma is dissolved, things will be easier. That's my opinion.
No, I agree. I have the same opinion. So I think people for a long time have seen mental illness as a weakness. Like you said, they wouldn't address children, with mental, they wouldn't address the conversation about mental health with children. They tend to talk about it in hushed voices amongst themselves. And I think that crosses every barrier. I don't think that's, indicative to African Americans or any other culture. I think that's, very across the board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the human race in itself.
Right. I think we don't like to admit our flaws. And I think now we feel like, admitting your flaws is admitting that you're weak or something like that. I think that's been for a long time. But I think now is the time to keep changing those perceptions. And we have seen it change for a long time. The last 10 years, it has really changed. So what else can we do to support and nurture and to promote youth in our community? From your perspective, I know that you're out in the community a lot, talking to a lot of different people. We want them to know that they can have a house. We want them to know that they can go to college. We want people to know that they can have a good career, regardless of their mental health status. So we know that those things are true. So
you can always start beyond the church. They can start with the guidance counselors.
Right.
Hopefully, have a relationship with the guidance counselor that they have at the school.
Right.
They can from there move them on. It would probably be easier for a guidance counselor to move them more into like a clinical type atmosphere,
right.
counseling versus anyone just off the street who see them and walk up to them,
right.
or somebody who they're not comfortable with.
I got
that way.
Yeah.
To move them in that direction. So that's where the school comes into play. More awareness in the churches. Because think about it, it's not a sexy topic.
It is not.
It's not a fun topic. It's not an interesting as far as moving, clapping. It's just not one of those topics that people are comfortable with sitting down and just talking about at any given time.
Right.
So I feel as the more that people bring a sense of awareness to it, no matter how, it's going to do it. So you have your different groups, like we mentioned. You have New Hope.
Yes.
You have your group. Now you have your group.
NAMI, yeah.
NAMI. So it's these type groups getting out and just making it. It has to be something beyond October.
Yes.
It has to be beyond October.
Right.
You have your big bash in October,
Right.
and then it dies down for 12 months, and you have another bash again.
Yes.
It need to be a continual effort.
Yeah, we all need to be having these conversations.
Right.
It's interesting that you mentioned New Hope, and we have Rebound, and we have these organizations that will minister to their mental health. But there is an organization in York County called All Youth on Board, and they promote a drug-free and a smoke-free um, campus and lifestyle. And so they have a club that kids can join, and they can, expand their horizons by doing. They just did a huge talent show the other day, and that was a really fun event. Lots of schools participated, but it was their way of getting the message out that you can live a full life, you can have a happy life just without the drugs and the alcohol and the smoking and the vaping, which is a great message. And I think we need to do more of that to promote youth programs, so they're busy, so
Right.
they're out and they can be in the community connecting with each other.
Right.
And I think that would help.
And staying happy, and it can be it's a form of coping.
Right, definitely a positive coping skill for them. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention before we wrap up, because there is some very specific resources for African American girls and for African American males. It's called Therapy for African American Men, and for Therapy for Black Men and Therapy for Black Girls, and they're both on the web, and I'm going to put those up. I super appreciate you coming and having the conversation. I love the outlook that you have, and I share the same, the same hope and the same kind of ideas about getting our youth involved and breaking down that stigma and having them start to talk to each other.